Today's program is being recorded and I'll be sending you a link after the program. My name is Lorraine Ball and I'm going to be your presenter today. If you have questions after the event, please feel free to reach out to me via email, through Facebook, or on Twitter. As we talk about email marketing, one of the things that really is important to keep in mind is this idea that first impressions matter. That when you send a simple email, you want it to make a big impression. And I love this graphic because it really kind of gives you a sense of what the campaign can look like. Do you send a simple text email, or do you send an engaging piece of marketing delivered to the inbox? Now, each of these communications has their time and place. But when you are trying to deliver marketing messages, you want to look like serious marketing, like the piece on the right. So what is email marketing? It can be a lot of different things, but at its core, it is delivering professional email communication to an interested audience, and it should contain information that the recipient finds valuable, and that looks great in any inbox. And although these are kind of simple ideas, I want to touch base real quickly on each of them. The first thing, and the reason that I personally went to Constant Contact more than a decade ago, was because I wanted my email to look classy. I wanted it to look professional. I wanted it to look and be consistent with the other marketing material I was delivering from my brand. The next thing, that idea to an interested audience. Email marketing is effective when you are sending it to a permission-based list. You know, as we made this transition from mass marketing to niche marketing, because that's where social media and email has taken us, a lot of people have had a tough adjustment because they're still in that mindset that if I just send my message to as many people as I possibly can, someone is going to buy from me. But really and truly, as you try to talk to anyone and everyone, you end up diluting your message and you're not delivering content that is really relevant for the people most likely to buy. So why do email marketing? For those of you that are already using it, you probably know this. But for people that are kind of on the fence going, should I do it? I think that some of the best applications are applications like this, where you're using it for repeat business, where you are sending email communication to people who have bought from you before. This is extremely effective for any kind of retail business. And you clearly see a quote here from the owner of Cotton Clouds about the kind of interactions they get from their email marketing. It can also be used to simply create awareness. Maybe you're in a business that isn't retail-oriented, like this residential, he's a real estate agent. He's got a really long selling cycle, and the odds that somebody is going to get an email from him and jump right on it and be ready to buy are somewhere between slim and none. But for his business, email helps reinforce his brand and keep his name in front of his target audience. And any kind of service business, it's a wonderful way to distribute, again, coupons and discounts or downloads. And the nice thing is that you can drop an email out there really whenever you need a little bit of boost to your business. So, if you're ready to harness the power of email marketing, let's dive into a little bit more on the specifics of how you get that done. Today we are going to look a little bit at why, talking about really the meat of the program, which is how to grow your list, create content, create mobile-friendly templates, get your email opened, track your results, and then kind of some wrap up on putting it all together. This statistic always amazes me. The #1 app on cell phones. You know, we've all got these fabulous smartphones, but the #1 app is actually email. And today, more than half of all email are opened on mobile devices. And what this means is it is changing the way we design email, and it's changing the way we design websites. Information needs to be in little bites. It needs to be digestible and presented in kind of an at-a-glance style. Because if it's not, people simply will skip it thinking I'll get to it later. And this statistic is kind of creepy, but more people own a cell phone than a toothbrush. Personally, I think they should trade in those cell phones. Why does email work? Because people read it. 88% of people check email on their smartphones. They actually check email more often than they check their social media. Almost everyone checks their email every single day. And it gets delivered. About 90% of the emails that are sent are actually delivered to the recipients. These days, although Facebook is a huge community, only about 2% of your total community is going to see your post, unless, of course, you pay to advertise. And that's a topic for another day. And email works. We've seen 3 and 4 times the conversion rate of social media. What does that mean? If you put a special offer on Facebook and you put that same offer in an email and put it out there, you're going to get a significantly higher percentage of people clicking through from your email than from social media. Why? Well, if you have a permission-based list, you're distributing the information to a group of people who are already interested. But the second reason, and more importantly, is because the email is being delivered without distraction. When I'm on Facebook, there's all sorts of stuff in the sidebar and up and under and all sorts of other posts. When I send an email, even if it's just for a moment or two, the only thing in front of my prospective customer is that email. I have their undivided attention, and I have an opportunity with that to perhaps sell, convince, inform, persuade, or do whatever it is I want that particular piece of marketing to do. Why regular emails don't work? #1, let's start at the top. You are limited in terms of the number of emails you can send at once. Most email providers will limit you to about 50 emails. And you have to remember to blind copy or you end up with something like this. I don't know about you, but my business can't run 50 emails at a time. And so using a third-party system, you can deliver hundreds or even thousands of emails. The second thing is that when you're sending an email from Gmail or Outlook, you don't have a lot of control over the format. You're more susceptible to spam filters, and you don't have any tracking or reporting. So whether you use Constant Contact or another product, personally, I'm going to tell you, I'm a big fan of Constant Contact. But any of the third-party tools give you attractive mobile responsive templates. They reinforce your brand identity. When the email is delivered, it appears in my inbox as if I'm the only one you sent that email to. It allows you to manage lists, adding subscribers, identifying bad email addresses, and also getting a chance to see who actually opened it. When I sent out 8,000 emails the other day about our marketing survey. I know that 1,500 people opened that email, and I know that of that 1,500, about 150 actually clicked on the report. Who am I going to call to follow up Am I going to try to call all 8,000 people? No, I'm going to call the 150 that were really interested. And so not only do you look better in the inbox, but on the back end, you have an opportunity to use the data to your advantage. Okay, so let's talk about how you do this. Number one, growing your list. You do not have to have millions of names, but you do have to have the email addresses of the people that do business with you and that you want to do business with. And step number one is you need to ask. If this is something that is really of interest to you, when I send you the follow-up email, just drop me a note and let me know that you'd like our white paper on 50 ways to grow your email list. The first thing, though, is simply ask. The second thing is let people know what kind of information they're going to get. Let them know how often it's going to come. I was really frustrated one time. I signed up for an email newsletter from a retail store, and they proceeded to send me an email every single day. Now, I'm not that avid a shopper, and to me, I felt like that was overkill. And so I was actually annoyed. So let people know what they're going to get, how often they're going to get it. Make sure you always give people an option to unsubscribe. I have a friend of mine who was sending an email newsletter, and she was sending it from Outlook. And she was blind copying me with I don't know how many other people, and there was no way to opt out. I felt bad because she was a friend of mine, but I finally had to tell her, look, take me off your list. I don't care about this. It isn't relevant for me. And then make sure you let people know about your privacy policies. Really spend some time in thinking about how often you have to send an email. I have one list that gets an email every week, and once a month they get a second email. I have another list that only gets an email from me once every other week. Again, the kind of business relationship that I have and what expectations I've set with those groups drive who's going to log in and when. And always, always, always make sure you're in compliance with CAN spam guidelines. And this includes things like putting people on your list only if you have permission, identifying where the email comes from, using valid email and phone numbers so that they can follow back up with you, things like that. Where do you ask? You should invite people to join your list everywhere you're online and where you're offline. There should be a link on your website or your blog. You should have a link from your social media pages. Facebook has a little plug-in. I don't know that a lot of people use it anymore, but have it on your Facebook page as well. And then also make sure that you add it in the real world. Have sign-up forms at events. Put reminders on menus and table tents. If you have a restaurant or an entertainment venue or even an office, doctors and dentists' offices, anywhere that people will come and be sitting and waiting for service, always have a way for them to sign up for your email list while they're waiting. Have a fishbowl at the door. Let people drop their business cards. Invite people to join as they're checking out and leaving your location. And consider having signs posted with text to join offers. This is one of my favorite features because you can have a sign, and basically what you do is you give people a sign that says text Salon Bella to this address. In Constant Contact, you set it up like this. You put in your keyword, and then you put it on a sign. Subscribe for $10 off. Text Salon Bella to 22828. When somebody does that and creates that little message, they're added to your list. But the second thing is you're trying to build your list, and this is really important, is you've got to give people a reason to join, and you need to let them know what to expect. Everybody wants me to sign up for their newsletter. Why should I join yours? Give me a compelling reason. Maybe I'm going to get discounts that are exclusive to me. Maybe I'm going to get ongoing information. For a lot of our clients, once we build their website, if they sign up to my newsletter, they're going to get lots of tips on things they can do with their newsletter after the site is launched. Joe's Butcher Shop has an email list, and he always promotes special pricing just to his email customers. I used to work in a retail shop, and one of my dress saleswomen used to keep, back in the day, a Rolodex with cards on all of her customers, and she would get on the phone every time a new dress came in, and she'd call them and say, oh, I've got this fabulous dress, it looks like this, I can put one aside for you, why don't you come in? Well, today, people can sign up for a list to get exclusive announcements about when new products are arriving. White papers and ebooks, we use this a lot. If you come to the Round Peg website, we probably have about 30 different ebooks and checklists and guides that people can download in exchange for their email address. Updates on my mission. If you are a nonprofit, if you are trying to solicit donations, having a newsletter that lets people know how their money is being spent and where you are having successes is huge. Friend and family discounts, same thing. If you're a member of the list, you get a special bonus. The number one reason people unsubscribe from an email is that they're getting irrelevant content. That the company is sending the same information to everyone, regardless of what they originally said they were most interested in. Divide and subdivide your list. Tell people what they're going to get information about and stay true to that mission, and you will hold on to the contacts. So let's talk about content. Ideally, I would tell you the best way to fuel your newsletter program is to blog several times a month and then pull a summary for your newsletter. But that doesn't work for every business. But whether you're doing that or creating just unique news for this newsletter, remember, it's not about you, but it's about what you know or what you have access to. So don't spend a lot of time. Sure, you can do promotions from time to time, but if all you do is blast the sale of the week, eventually I'm going to get bored and just unsubscribe. But as a player in an industry, you read journals, you read articles, you go to conferences, you know what's going on that is interesting in your business. So talk about travel, and if you're in the travel industry, talk about trends, talk about destinations. If you sell a food product, share a recipe. Pay attention to how much is enough. For most businesses, I would say that, especially as you're starting out, once a month is an ideal rhythm. Now, if you've got a retail shop or you have, like we do, a lot of information that's constantly being created, you can send out an email more often, maybe once a month, once a week. But pay attention to your analytics. If you start sending out too much email, you'll notice people unsubscribing, and you'll notice your open rate is falling. If you're wondering about what to talk about, think about the frequently asked questions. What is it that people ask you about how you do business? Think about the emails that you send that explain your process and turn those into newsletters and blogs. And finally, remember that images are content too. A great photo with a good caption can be as much fun as a long article in terms of getting people interested in who you are and what you're doing. Write for your audience and not for you. According to one study from Marketing Sherpa, 38% say that they unsubscribe if the email is boring, and 32% say they'll basically send it to spam if they think it's irrelevant. So here you've got this audience of dog lovers. All of these people love their dogs. And so Camp Unleashed, a dog park or a camp for dogs, knows their audience. In addition to their cute little logo, they open the email with a great photograph of a dog. They know that people who love dogs are going to get a kick out of these images. How much is enough? A general rule of thumb is less is more. You want to try to keep your entire email to about 20 lines of text. Remember, I told you this is at-a-glance marketing. Ideally, you want to keep your pictures to 3 or less. After a while, it just gets exhausting. If you have more photos, put them on your website with a link that says see more photos. Don't try to shove them all in the same email. The other thing is that the more links you put in the email, the less likely people are to actually click on any of them. Your click rate is between 0.6 and 0.7 when you have only one. And you see how it starts to fall off with 2 or 3 and then just pretty much cruises around the I'm not clicking anything. When you get an email that looks like this, that's got a sea of all these blue links, it's a little overwhelming. Conversely, when you get an email like this with only one link, people are more likely to go, oh, that's where I go next. And even better than a link is a button. Think about turning questions into content. So people call you and say, how do I keep my pipes from freezing? Write a blog post or a newsletter on avoid frozen pipes. Do I get to deduct mileage I drive from work to home each day? Yes, you can deduct that, or no, you can't. What's a simple way to pick wine? Red or white? Become an expert in 3 easy steps. Do you notice that there's a little bit of fun? And do you notice the number? There's an entire class that we teach on subject lines, but one of the key takeaways is that people like numbers. It tells them how much content is in this article, how much they're going to have to read, and also emotionally there's that idea that, oh, I can follow those 3 steps and it will be wonderful. Remember that, again, images are content too, and 90% of the information that is processed by the brain is actually visual. So a great photograph with a caption is wonderful. Let me go back to that picture really quick. If you are going to do this, however, and you are going to use pictures, make sure when you upload the pictures that you also include a title and a description, because some people don't download their pictures, and if they don't download their picture, you don't want them to see just a great big blank space in your email. You want them to actually see a description of what the picture is about. Other design tips: if you're going to use a picture, make sure it's clickable. Make sure that every image in your campaign goes somewhere. Keep the most important information above your scroll line. So, yes, different devices are going to present this email differently, but essentially everything should be in the top third. Again, instead of links, I almost always like buttons. And the last thing is use design wisely. Limit choices. Just because you can use every color imaginable doesn't mean you should. And just because you can have 5 or 6 different fonts doesn't mean you should. Keep it simple, keep it clean, keep it uncluttered. Remember, there are people that are going to be looking at this campaign on their phone. And the screen of my iPhone is probably only 2 by 4 inches. So go easy on me. Some tips as far as photos. You can always make a photo smaller, but you cannot make it larger. So if you grab a really teeny photo and then try to make it bigger, it's always going to look a little bit fuzzy. Number 2, make sure you avoid copyright images. Just because an image is on the internet does not mean it's free. And as a matter of fact, there are some owners of images. Some of the bigger companies are getting very aggressive pursuing people who are using images they do not own the rights to. If you do not have any of your own pictures, there are some great stock photography sites, Big Stock Photo, Stock Vault, and freeimages.com. But if you grab these images, make sure you keep a record of where you got the image from. And finally, if you're using Constant Contact, they have a wonderful image library built right into the tool. You can choose from hundreds and hundreds of free images, and they even have a few that are available for $1 or $2. The nice thing is once you download the image, you can use it in multiple campaigns. So let's talk a little bit about creating mobile-friendly templates and good-looking emails. The first thing is that you want to create something that looks good everywhere, that adjusts to smaller screens, and that is consistent and reinforcing of your brand. So your colors, your font, your logo. To get started, and if you're using Constant Contact, make sure you choose a mobile-friendly template. And make sure your brand is consistent everywhere. There are lots of different mobile-friendly templates. There are newsletters, which are pretty straightforward, a little bit of formatting up at the top. They're ideal for educational information. There are announcements that are more date-driven, that talk about one particular topic, or maybe something that is more promotional, where you're leading with a great big picture. So choose a template that makes sense for you, and then be recognizable everywhere. This is a girls' organization, and you can see, here's their website, beautiful picture, great text. I probably would have, in going to the email, I probably would have taken the text off of the picture and just had the picture. And then here's Facebook. And again, same colors, same font, same image. Make sure you use the same kind of language, the same kind of tone, so as people see communication from you in more than one place, they're not confused. Here's another example. Curtis is a copywriter, and this is what his website looks like. It's very clean. It's got a great picture of an old-fashioned typewriter. And here's his email newsletter, and you can see a little bit more text with great Learn More buttons. Here's a kind of simple recipe for success in terms of designing an email campaign. Choose a single column template. I know that there are still some 2-column templates out there, but the truth is, on mobile, single column works best. Keep your image count to less than 3. Less than 20 lines of text. No more than 3 to 5 links, and I really love these buttons. I think they are so much more effective. Keep the big action above that scroll line, And oops, one other thing that I definitely want to kind of point out here is when you're using these buttons, do them in all caps. There was some research done by FormStack here in town that found that all caps on a button had a more commanding effect, and people were more likely to actually click on the button. So let's talk about how you get this email open, because it's wonderful that you got this attractive email, but if they don't open it, they'll never know why. So you want to give them kind of the 4 reasons to pay attention. First off, they need to know who it's from. So make sure you're using an email address that clearly identifies who the email is coming from. Secondly, write a compelling subject line and spend as much time on the subject line as you do on the email itself. This is not an afterthought. This is the great big sign on the door that says, "Open now." Pay attention to the timing. As you send emails, do you get better open rate first thing in the morning or later in the afternoon? And make it easy to share so people can send it on to friends and associates. So who sent it? Make the from name and the from email recognizable. And it should be the same across all of your social platforms. I know that sometimes you can't get the exact domain name that you wanted for your business, but as much as possible, keep it consistent so people know it's you. All of these people sitting around, enjoying a lovely afternoon outdoors. If I would send them an email, about 1/3 of them will decide whether or not they're going to open that email simply based on the subject line. So, as you're thinking about your subject line, identify your purpose. Be clear and be clever. Agro yoga at 11,000 feet, you in? Sure, they could have done a headline that said, "Check out our new agro yoga class. Ho hum boring." They had a little fun with their title and they got a significantly better open rate. And don't forget about the teaser text, particularly on cell phones, but even on some desktop units. Not only do you have the subject line, but the email will grab some preview text. If you do not include the preview text, most of these tools will pull the first line of your email. And for many of you, that first line is, "If you're having trouble seeing this email, click here." Well, that's not going to make me open it. So take the time to adjust your preview text. And choose your words carefully. Unfortunately, spammers have been out there for years and years and years, and they have really messed up a lot of what I consider to be good words. But if you see these words, a lot of email clients will automatically drive your email into a spam folder. So avoid phrases like act now, click, free, income, save, urgent. Avoid using all capital letters. And don't do excessive punctuation. 3 exclamation points, question marks, or dollar signs. Do not make a dollar sign the first letter in the word save. Do not put 3 exclamations at the end of a sentence. And actually, don't even do that inside the email. But definitely don't do it in your subject line if you actually want your email to be delivered. As you're thinking about your subject line, remember that size matters, that a lot of cell phones and other email clients are truncating your message. So you have 30 to 40 characters at most. 6 to 10 words, and actually between 4 and 7 get the greatest response. Make sure you pay attention to that pre-header text. And all of this is really important because more than half of all email is going to be opened on a mobile device. Timing is everything. Whenever you tell people, keep the promise. You're going to send out a weekly email or a monthly email, then do it. If you can't commit to a schedule, then tell me you're going to do it periodically. But there is nothing that makes me laugh more and then feel bad for the person I'm laughing at than someone who comes out on the first week of January and says, hey, we're going to send you an email every month. And then I don't hear from them again until March, April, or even October. Coordinate the timing with your email across social channels. So, for example, my blog post goes live at 7 o'clock in the morning. I send out my email at 7 in the morning, and I post on social media between 8 and 9. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch. And if something is really urgent, then send it. And then pay attention to how your audience responds, what day of the week and what time of day. If you're not sure, test. Divide your email list into 2 or 3 equal segments. And the only difference should simply be maybe that you put them in alphabetical order and the A's are on one list and the B's are on another. And send exactly the same email on 2 different days or at 2 different times. And see which one not only gets opened more, but after people open, which one had a higher click-through. When is the best time to send email? It varies by business. Constant Contact has found that Monday at 7 a.m. is good for restaurants. My friend Scott, who owns a series of burger joints, found that if he sent an email around 10:30, he had a great response at lunch. And if he sent the email around 4, his happy hour and dinner hour were great. Accountants, financial advisors seem to do better on Tuesday. Religious organizations seem to do better Thursday as you're rolling into the weekend. Retail stores, particularly food, also tend to do better on Thursday. So this gives you a starting point, and then from there you need to test and see what actually works best for your client. And again, pretty simple. Select a couple of different audiences, test 2 different days, watch both the open and the click-through. Do the same thing for time of day. Don't forget social share buttons. Emails with social sharing buttons increase click-through rates by 158%. If you want people to talk about you on social media, make it easy. Use the share bar, ask people to take the time to share it. Now let's talk about tracking your results, because good marketing should be trackable. Let's talk about what reports matter. Your open rate is important, but the more important metric is the click-through. Are people being motivated to action? If you have a coupon or a promotion or you're sharing pictures from an event, are people clicking to see everything that's included? And use the information every time you look at a campaign to make your next campaign better. This was an interesting study. Small businesses believe that reports and analytics provide them a business advantage. 75% of business owners said that when they use data, it gives them a competitive edge. And I totally believe that. This other data point was interesting. 67% of the businesses in the study also said that when they pay attention to the data, it actually helps them retain customers because they can do a better job of delivering relevant information to their customers when their customers are ready to buy. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the metrics. The first one is open rate. Ideally, looking at open rate gives you a sense of who's interested. And so very often when I get a group of people who open an email, I may put them in a subcategory and maybe send them a follow-up email. The downside is it can be triggered with a false positive. So if it just automatically, where people may be doing it by rote, they're really not looking at the email. I haven't seen a lot of that, but I guess if Constant Contact is including it, it must be an issue for some. I prefer to pay attention to the click-through. It's a small number and it shows me who's really engaged in taking action. It's really micro data where I'm really looking at one or two people at a time. And so I only look at this when I'm really ready to do some targeted communication. And looking at shares, I think what it does is it illustrates the content your audience finds most valuable. It really tells you that you've hit a nerve. But the truth is people are lazy and only a small group will actually share. And it only tells you part of the story because really the click is the more, it's moving them closer to your ultimate sales process. There's an interesting phenomenon on social media where people will share articles and their friends will like or share those articles without ever really looking at them. The danger is you don't really know what the article is about, and you don't really know if there's something in there that you might not agree with. And so I always advocate don't share if you don't click, but I know that there are lots of people that will. Opt-outs are an important measure because this shows you, when this number rises, it shows you that perhaps you are boring or sending inappropriate content, or maybe your list is not as permission-based as you think. And the bounce rate helps you keep your list healthy and identify bad email addresses, when people have moved, when people have unsubscribed. And it gives you an opportunity to talk to people whose servers are blocking your email. So let's take a look at the click-through rate. You can find the number here on your dashboard. And now you can see which of the links really generated the most interest. And if I click on this number here, it will actually take me to a list of people, and I can maybe call them specifically and say, hey, I noticed that you went to the booking site. Did you get all the classes that you wanted? Couple other ways to use the data. If you've got a high open rate but a low click-through rate, you're already in good shape. You may want to do some testing to see if you can raise that rate even more by finding better times of day and improving your keywords. If you've got a low click-through rate, pay attention to these three things. Do you have a strong call to action? Is your email mobile friendly? Can I open it on my phone? And also pay attention to the length. On the other hand, if you have a low open rate but high click-through, what that means is you're probably sending very niche content to your general list. And so there's a lot of people that don't really care about this particular subject, but the people that do really do. And so what I would suggest is narrow it. Create a subgroup of just the people that open this email and send them content on a more regular basis, and then only send to the larger list when you've got bigger announcements. Putting it all together, you have an advantage. Your customers love you, and if they don't, then you have an issue that can't be solved with email. But let's assume you are running a good business, you have a great organization, and you're thinking about starting an email list. Pretty simple. Get a list of contacts together, even if it's just a handful of people, and create and send one campaign, and then watch what happens and build from there. Quick refresher on what an ideal email looks like. Remember the preview pane, a little bit of text at the top. Subject line, keep it short. Make sure the business name is in the from text. Take advantage of the social media share bars. Choose the right template and design it for mobile responsiveness. Put your logo either in the center or the left, but not in the right. It has to do with the way it will display. Use your brand colors. Communicate through pictures. Make them clickable and keep it to 3 or less. Remember that less is more. About 20 lines of content have the highest conversion rate. Keep your calls to action above the scroll line. Keep the number of links at a minimum. And use, again, the social media share buttons at the bottom. So here's the thing. Small business marketing is about nurturing relationships, delivering on your promise, and getting measurable results. There are a lot of ways to do this, but I think email is one of the simplest. And you can do this with one toolkit and one login. If you've got questions, now's a great time to put them up. I noticed that we do have a question here, so just give me a minute while I read it. It says that Constant Contact designed a mobile-friendly template for emails, and they mirrored the top of the website with logo and tabs across the top. None of my examples looked like this. They mirrored the website, but did not include the tabs. The tabs across the top, that was a style of design in email marketing kind of 1 or 2 generations back, and there are still some people that do that, but again, it creates too many links and too many choices in the email. Your email, I don't think, should be just a mini version of your website. Really and truly, the most effective emails are focused on 1 or 2 key points, and then drive people to your website where they can experience the entire thing. So I would really recommend not having those tabs across the top. Happy to take other questions. Okay, well, since there don't appear to be any other questions, just a quick reminder, lots of local resources. You can go to our blog. In the email I'm going to send, if you're not currently using email marketing and you'd like a free trial, I'm happy to set you up. Constant Contact is even running a promotion for 15% off a full year subscription if you sign up by the end of the month. Thanks again for being a part of today's program. I hope that you've enjoyed the webinar and look forward to you being a part of future programs. Be sure to check our website. We've got a full lineup of interesting classes in January and February, and we hope that you'll join us.